brother. It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just the
Duo.
Of feathery brethren, weathering any season to see the Eagles eating teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia. Both and Zach kicking it cooler than
Two.
When still Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some
Birds with Friends.
The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some
Birds with Friends.
Bo and Zach coming at you with stats and things flapping.
We are going to rip out the hearts of other podcasts. We are going to bite off their eyeballs. We are going to start every segment watching the scene from The Last of the Mohicans where the guy takes a bite out of the other guy's heart. We may not be good, but we're going to be nasty. We're going to reflect the blue-collar nature of this city. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Birds with Friends, 12:03 a.m. on December 25th. Zach Berman, Marissa Dunn, Bo Wulf here to talk about the Eagles' Christmas Eve game against the Dallas Cowboys, and you thought that it was lining up for the storybook ending. Eagles trailing 40-34, down 6 points with 1:41 left to go. Gardner Minshew, after this emotional week that he has had, gets the ball for the Eagles on their 25-yard line. He completes a short pass to Zach Pascal. He hits Kenny Gainwell for 15 yards. Then he hits A.J. Brown along the sideline for 13 yards. After an incompletion, he lofts one up high. Devonta Smith goes up and grabs it with a beautiful catch on a day when he was a star. But then Gardner Minshew goes up and clocks the ball. They spike it at the 19-yard line with 34 seconds left, lose it down. And after that, no more completions for Minshew and the Eagles. His desperation fourth down throw lands in the end zone out of A.J. Brown's reach. The Eagles lose to the Cowboys 40-34, 4 turnovers on the day, and they are still unclinched in regard to the number one overall seed in the NFC. They will play the Saints next week. We'll see what happens with Jalen Hurts. But as for what happened tonight or yesterday afternoon, we go to the man who was there, Zach Berman, who you can see has set up a beautiful shot of the Dallas skyline in the background with a reflection of his hallway in his hotel. I'm hoping there's going to be someone who shows up at some point in this episode.
There will not be.
Mistress, could be Santa Claus, could be anybody, but this is a bit of a foreshadowing for those of you watching on YouTube. Zach, how are you?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to this podcast. It was an interesting game to attend. Great atmosphere. Great game to watch. A.J. Brown said it was one of the most fun games he's ever been a part of, which was interesting to hear his perspective. Back and forth, the Eagles had a chance to win. And
did you think when they got the ball that they were going to score a touchdown, Zach? Did you think that this was going to be the Gardner Minshew story on Christmas Eve?
Well, I certainly thought it had a chance. They were moving the ball well throughout the game. They had one timeout in that case, right? So they were playing against the clock. But no, I certainly thought they had a chance. It stood out to me that they did not punt all game, right? They had 4 turnovers, and then they had that final drive, which resulted in they lost on 4th down, like you said. But otherwise, they scored on every possession, which goes to show you
10 possessions, 5 scoring drives, 4 turnovers, 1 turnover on downs at the end. Yeah.
Which goes to show you this is a game when they got in their own way. And I have a story up now that kind of takes you inside the locker room, and it shows you all the different versions of players saying we shot ourselves in the foot. We lost the game. We beat ourselves, things of that nature. And Hassan Reddick said it was a wake up call and something that it's better it happens now than in the postseason. So it was interesting to observe. I thought Gardner Minshew played fine to well. You know, he moved the ball. The wide receivers were outstanding, and I mean in particular, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Both of them went over 100 yards, but turnovers and 3rd down defense. It wasn't the spectacular things here. It was the basic things, the things they talk about all the time. You know, if you're around the Eagles facility like we are, you hear them emphasize turnovers. You see the signs. Well, they have 7 in these past 2 weeks. This is an interesting stat, and we can kind of get into.
Oh, you're muted. Wow, what a good tease. This must be an interesting stat.
Am I back now? Do you hear me?
Back, but you have the wrong audio.
Okay. Is this better?
Oh yeah, crystal clear, baby.
Okay. So, as I was saying 2 weeks ago, going into the Bears game, they were number 1 in the league in giveaways, right? So like 32-1, however you want to frame it. The
Fewest giveaways,
turnovers,
yes.
The fewest turnovers by 3. They had a 3 turnover margin, okay? And now there are 9 teams, at least as I was writing. I don't know if the Raiders or the Steelers affected that. I have to check. But there are 9 teams now that have fewer turnovers than them. They have 7 in these past 2 weeks. In their 2 losses alone, they've had 47% of their turnovers. In 3 games. If you include the Bears game last week, 65% of the turnovers, right? So it's uncharacteristic of them, but these 2 weeks, you're seeing it become more characteristic and something they must fix.
Yeah, they're 13-0 when they don't turn the ball over 4 times in the same game.
Yes.
Right? Like that's how the season's going. And yet, despite all 4 turnovers, despite being terrible on third down defense, and despite giving up a 3rd and 30 conversion when they were up 7 points in the fourth quarter with a chance to really put the heat on, they still had a chance to win at the end of the game. And so I think from a macro perspective, you probably think, okay, we beat ourselves. Like, these 2 teams play again in 4 weeks. If Jalen Hurts is the quarterback, you feel pretty good about the Eagles' chances of winning that game. However, there are no guarantees. And as you said, 7 turnovers over the past 2 weeks. It's time for them to tighten those screws of the things that they profess to say are manageable and not luck-based, that they can control. And so we can talk about the specifics of those turnovers. I don't know if you want to focus on the offense to start, but Miles Sanders, who hadn't fumbled through the first 13 games of the season, has a fumble each of the past 2 weeks. And his in this game was incredibly costly. There was a botched handoff with Boston Scott, and then 2 interceptions thrown to Quez Watkins that I think you could put at least a little bit, or maybe about like close to half the blame on Quez Watkins for not really fighting for the ball and getting in the right position. But maybe it's a question of this is the 3rd interception thrown to Quez Watkins over the past 2 weeks. Maybe let's look at somebody else on those throws. But I think the offense moved the ball really well.
Yes.
And as you said, they had no turnovers or no possessions that were ended because they just weren't moving the ball well enough. If you erase the 4 turnovers, and if you erase like every turnover over the course of the season, and you're just doing EPA per play on the non-turnover plays of every game, this was the Eagles' 2nd best offensive performance of the season, which tells you how well they were moving the ball against a defense that came in pretty highly regarded. But the turnovers count, and I don't know where they go from here. But I think you saw that. I think my big picture takeaway from this game, well, not big picture, but like micro takeaway from this game, is that you saw how interested the Eagles' offensive staff was in crafting this Gardner Minshew game. Mm-hmm. They really planned this thing out well. Even the first touchdown to Devonta Smith, that was a play that they have been setting up all year long on those little RPO plays to the leak outs to the right or to whatever side, and then Devonta Smith fakes the block
left tonight. Yeah.
Right. That play they've been that's like their money short yardage down play, which they did multiple times against the Cowboys back in week 6. They've been setting that play up all year, and they saved it for this game, right? There were a bunch of little wrinkles that you could tell that they were excited about. However, on defense, it was I think the generous reading was, we don't want to show anything. And Dak Prescott in this game, 24 for 24 for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against zone defense, according to Next Gen Stats. He did not throw a single incompletion when the Eagles were in zone defense, and he was 4 of 11 when they were in man defense. They lost some people. We'll get to that. Avonte Maddox leaves this game. Jordan Davis left the game. We don't know what happened with Lane Johnson yet. I wonder if you saw anything in the locker room. But I think if you're being generous to Jonathan Gannon, you're saying he was thinking we don't want to show too much. We're probably going to see Dak Prescott again. Let's save our interesting stuff for the playoffs. If you don't want to be generous, you're thinking, well, we've been waiting to see how they do against a good quarterback. And if they get carved up like they did last year, every time they played a good quarterback, and they got carved up by a good quarterback again. So I think that's like the big question is what to think about the defense. But I'm not doing a good job as a host here, throwing you a point guard question, but I'm just unloading my thoughts. What did you say?
You're doing a good job with the show. It's I'm happy listening to the show. I would say with the defense, you hit it on the head. Third downs, right? You need to get off the field on third downs. They did not play well on third downs, and actually they cleaned it up a bit in the second half, but then they let a 3rd and 30 go, right. And that's inexcusable.
Surrendered
right
their first 7 third downs in this game in the first half. 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 6 yards, 15 yards. I guess it was actually 6 of 7, but the 6, the one that wasn't, they then converted on 4th down. So the 7 drives, Terrible.
So 2 touchdowns allowed on third downs, and that 3rd and 30. The Eagles had momentum, right? They just took the lead with a Devonta Smith touchdown. They have 2 sacks. He pushed them back into a 3rd and 30 there, and spoke to Josiah Scott after the game. Miscommunication. He said he was responsible for the deep half of the field. They were in that cover 2, it looked like. Darius Slay let the guy go, assuming that Scott had him there. You need to make the play, and that was bad. That was a bad play.
I think Slay was upset about the call, the defensive call. That's my guess.
He was upset about cover 2.
Because it looked like on the sideline, he and Fletcher Cox were talking. Now, you were in the locker room. I was not. There was a moment they showed like he and Fletcher Cox were talking, and it was like he was upset, and Fletcher Cox was trying to calm him down. And then I saw what he said in the locker room about like everybody has to just execute the call, which is like it felt like he was pointing fingers at Josiah Scott. But I think the undercurrent is like he didn't think that was the right call in that situation.
Interesting. I wasn't thinking that before you said it. I thought that his response there was his way of like I think he was first off. It's
a heck of a throw.
I don't think Slay wants people to think that's on him, right? That's number one. He's a prideful guy, and he lets Hilton go there because he's assuming Scott is in coverage there. Scott said that Dallas quick snapped it, and they kind of didn't get their coverage in place until right at the snap. But 3rd and 30. You got to get off the field. There's no excuse.
I mean, you get a penalty. That's one thing, but come on.
And that changes the game there. That changes the game. So
it completely changed the game.
So that was bad, and it's because the defense did other things that, they had 6 sacks. They had a pick 6, right? There are things that
play by Josh Sweat.
Yeah, there are things that within themselves you look at it and you say if you get 6 sacks and a pick 6 in a game, the defense had a good
that's what was so crushing
they couldn't
about
get off the field on 3rd down.
That's what was so crushing about the 3rd and 30. It was because this defense needs to make a play, right? Like they have been getting they've been so passive all game long. If this happens in the playoffs, it's going to be a disaster. We need the pass rush to step up. And they step up with 2 sacks in a row. First and 2nd down. We can debate the Linval Joseph potential fumble recovery on the Hassan Reddick sack, but that's it. Like the pass rush just went out and made the plays to win the game. Basically, they put you in 3rd and 30, and then the secondary lets you down. And that's what is like so crushing, and you would imagine is really frustrating for the defensive line and probably for like Howie Roseman watching like this is what you put together, and then you're gonna let him get it on 3rd and 30. What are we doing?
Yeah, and also you think about 2 plays before that 3rd and 30. And I'm tying this back into the turnovers. It shows why the Eagles, I don't want to say were disingenuous, but kind of missing the ball when they were talking about the turnover differential earlier this year, right? Because Hassan Reddick gets a strip sack that Linval Joseph was what I spoke to Linval after the game. He said he didn't have it. He said kind of the Cowboys center fell on it. And he was close. He tried everything he could to get it. But if the Eagles recover that, that's a huge turn of events in the game. The Eagles fumble the ball 2 times themselves, and Dallas jumps on it both times, right?
Right. Looked like Jack Driscoll had a chance to recover the Sanders one. Yes, like that juxtaposition is exactly where the game turned.
Exactly. And so when the Eagles were saying throughout the season that, or earlier in the season, that they emphasize turnovers more than anyone else, they drill with the fundamentals. I get all that, but sometimes the ball bounces funny ways, and it bounces into your hands. Sometimes it bounces into their hands other times. And that was a huge difference. Hassan Reddick, like if you get off the field there and you're in Cowboys territory up 7, you probably win this game, right? So it just goes to show you the way things change. If they get to
stop on 3rd and 30, they probably win the game. But that is sort of like the balance of luck, and you make your own luck in football. Like it's not super insightful to say that oftentimes the difference in a game are the way that this weirdly shaped oblong ball bounces on the turf, right?
Absolutely.
And that is the case on that sack. But then you still got 3rd and 30. You can go out and make the play yourself, and you don't. And so, there's some luck and randomness to it, but also they did not take advantage of their opportunities.
I concur.
All right, Zach, why don't we take a little break, compose our thoughts, maybe dial in a little bit more on the specifics of the game, what we saw, what you learned from the locker room, maybe what you saw being there, and, continue this holiday merriment.
With Masterclass, you can learn from the world's best artists, icons, and leaders anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn the art of negotiation from Chris Voss. You can improve your business strategy with Bob Iger, or you can learn the power of personal branding from Chris Jenner. With over 180 classes from a range of world-class instructors, that thing you've always wanted to do is closer than you think. What I like is the wide variety. You heard the ones I mentioned above. You can learn everything from writing a book to a screenplay or just a simple letter. You can learn how to communicate with your boss or your family, how to make a dinner worthy of a Michelin star, or just how to make really good scrambled eggs. Whatever you're interested in, there's a class for you. Over 180 exclusive classes taught by the instructors you know and love. I highly recommend you check it out. This holiday, give the perfect gift of an annual Masterclass membership and get one free. Go to masterclass.com/firstdown today. That's masterclass.com/firstdown. Terms apply. I was craving a steak dinner recently, but I didn't have a babysitter, didn't have a reservation, and I was thinking, what if I could have the steakhouse experience in my own home? Well, that's where Omaha Steaks comes in. Omaha Steaks gave me that experience, and you can have it, and you can give it to others. Gift the best with the best steaks of your life from Omaha Steaks, America's original butcher since 1917. Perfectly aged, tender, unforgettable, and guaranteed delicious. The steak experts at Omaha Steaks have put together an assortment of various packages to make shopping for the ones you love nice and easy. Go to omahasteaks.com and use code BIRDS at checkout to get an additional $30 off your order. Send an assortment of mouth-watering favorites guaranteed to impress, like the legendary Butcher's Cut Filet Mignon, air-chilled boneless chicken, ultra-juicy burgers, and even easy-to-prepare comfort meals that are ready in a flash. Omaha Steaks is ready to ship your order right away. Head to omahasteaks.com and use promo code BIRDS at checkout. Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift that will be remembered with every unforgettable bite. Order with complete confidence today, knowing you're ordering the very best. Visit omahasteaks.com, use promo code BIRDS at checkout, and get that extra $30 off your order.
Welcome back, Birds with Friends. Bo, Zach, and Marissa, how are you? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I'm great. I thought you were going to start this by saying Zach moved his location.
Yeah, what's up with that, Zach?
what's up with this? I was on a couch before, and the mic was flimsy, so I thought if I moved over to the desk, we don't have the backdrop anymore. But
We won't see
we're
the
gonna
other
have to.
person in your room anymore, but
Hey, I had Santa tracker up all day for my little nieces and nephews, and I just saw that he's in the U.S. now, so maybe he's headed Zach's way.
oh. All right, Zach. Gardner Minshew, 24 of 40 for 355, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 84.9, and added a quarterback sneak touchdown. I thought it was interesting. There wasn't much of a huge difference in the way that the offense looked without Jalen Hurts, and other than the running game. But in the passing game, Gardner Minshew, he had a couple passes to the outside. His average depth of target was like the 3rd deepest of any game for the Eagles this year. His time to throw was right in the middle of all those games. And, he did move the ball. What did you make of Gardner Minshew's performance?
I thought that there were some signs of rust, but overall, I thought he did a good job of getting the ball in his playmakers' hands, playing the point guard part of it. In the first half in particular, he was throwing the ball downfield. You saw in the first drive, hits A.J. Brown down the right side. He was finding Devonta. Devonta made some outstanding catches. I thought he did a real good job functioning within the offense. And I do give a lot of credit to Steichen and Sirianni because and you referenced this before in the first segment. Had the Eagles not had their turnover problems, the story of the night to me would have been this offensive game plan, the offensive play calling, like what they did to move the ball as effectively as they did, because there were some play designs that were just outstanding. They had receivers running open throughout the game, and I give them a lot of credit there. And I would say Minshew has a part in that, right? Like they were a team with a backup quarterback tonight, and it wasn't like a lot of backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Even, by the way, Cooper Rush, when Rush was playing with the Cowboys earlier on, where you're so vanilla, you're so basic, and you're just trying to get by with the guy. No, they were running.
They were not trying to hide him. They were leaning fully into what he has. Yeah,
exactly. Now, the 3 turnovers he was a part of, you mentioned Quez takes some of the responsibility there, and I agree. And Boston Scott, when him on the mesh point, what we heard Minshew take responsibility. We don't know exactly what happened there. So he needs to do a better job taking care of the ball. And there were times that I thought he was a little quick throwing it away. And it was probably like the emphasis, don't take a sack, take a sack.
And he was not sacked a single time.
Yeah. And so I can understand the push-pull there. But there were times when instead of throwing it away, I kind of would have liked to see him put the ball in a spot where his receivers can try to make a play. You have A.J. Brown out there. Devonta Smith is not known as a strong guy, but he can high point a ball with the best of them, right?
He is unbelievable in this game.
Yeah. So I would have tried to get them the ball a little better.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's obviously such a different aesthetic experience than Jalen Hurts. Gardner Minshew was very jittery in the pocket in this game. He did a lot of throwing off his back shoulder or his back foot rather, and drifting just a little bit here and there to get away from the rush, and throwing these loopy passes, some of them borderline hospital balls that were going to get guys hit pretty hard. But he was very effective. I think that the rust really showed and really came back to bite them in some of the game management mechanics. You saw this. I mean, you could argue that this was a part of the deal on the Boston Scott fumble, that maybe they just haven't repped that enough, at least live in games. But the 2-minute drill at the end of the first half, there was that false start that Dallas Goedert took that put him in a bad spot, and they had to settle for a field goal. I think, that doesn't happen with Jalen Hurts. But even throughout that drive, he didn't really have it didn't seem like he had a full like calming command of what was going on, which is like something that Jalen Hurts is so good at. And we have seen him be very good at those situational end of half, end of game stuff throughout the season, really more end of half because they've not been in too many close games at the end of games. But at the end of the game, I thought the decision to spike the ball at the 19-yard line with 32 seconds left, 34 seconds left, and one timeout, I thought that was Minshew led, because of the way that he also did in the first half, like was leaning into that spike. And that was a bad decision. And it really came back to cost them. You should not trade the loss of down there when you still have plenty of room to pick up a first down for 4 seconds worth of spiking it versus setting up a play there. And it came back to bite them because they then treated those next 3 plays as if they had to like go to the end zone or try to pick up the first down. And I did not think that I would imagine that is like, if you were expecting the rust of not having actually played in a live game since last season as the starter to show up, that is when you would expect it to show up. And I thought that really cost them at the end.
I would agree. Now, it's one of those things that when I went back and looked at it, it stood out to me even more. In the heat of the moment there, though, when you're situational awareness is very important. The Eagles obviously wanted to conserve that timeout. But like you mentioned, there were ways around it. And it sounds like you're putting the Goddard penalty on Minshew.
I think I am.
Okay. I didn't get a chance to talk to
it's just on Goddard, but I feel like part of it was like the freneticism that Minshew was like doing things with at the time.
Well, that was coming from the sideline to spike it there, right? So I don't know if that I could see on the sideline they were telling them to hurry up and spike it because they wanted to save that timeout. That wasn't a Minshew decision in that situation.
Okay.
As far as the spiking in the second half, I wasn't watching the sideline there. I was watching the field, so I don't have good insight on that. That's something we can find out this week.
Did you notice on the spike at the first half, the Goddard penalty, like Devonta Smith throwing up his arms in frustration?
Yes, I did.
I thought this was a game where the connection we made over the summer of Devonta Smith to organism from players, shout out to Tony Ascenda, like really showed up. Like,
okay.
I think Devonta Smith is like, he's got more dog in him than anyone else on the team. I think, maybe you could argue Jalen Hurts, but I think he is like so, like built for the moment and is so aware of everything that's going on that like stupid mistakes really frustrate him. I don't know.
I can see that. So a cool Devonta Smith nugget here. I don't know if it has anything to do with what you just mentioned, but it could potentially. So you know how after the game, and you've written about this, Howie Roseman stands by the locker room and like fist pumps everyone as they come in, fist bumps everyone as they come in. And today, Brandon Graham was the last guy off the field, and in the corridor to the locker room, Howie was there, but then Devonta was there, and Devonta was waiting for everyone, like greeting everyone as they came in. So, very much a leader on this team, even though he's known for how quiet he is. But I would agree with what you said. Yeah.
What did you think of his touchdown celebration?
Good question. What were they doing? Taking the presents away from the Salvation Army? Was that the idea? Are they the Grinch? Maybe what?
He put a mask on.
Oh, okay.
I just rewatched it. Yeah, kicked down the door, and then took the presents.
I respect it. I liked it.
I like all creativity.
Take, Zach?
Yeah, no, I don't have a strong take on.
You like all creativity?
We don't need to go down. Just tell me what answer you want me to give, and I'll give it so we can move on to the next thing here.
Do we think Zach needs to refresh?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Zach, I think the cord is getting a little messed up at the bottom
on the
of
mic.
Mm-hmm.
Give that bad boy a reload.
Okay. I'll jump out and jump back in.
Yeah.
Do the hokey pokey. Turn yourself around.
Yeah. I was hoping that it kind of fixed itself, but it started to get a little bad there. We got to watch our audio, after last show. So
Marissa, is Michael getting a visit from Santa, or is that?
of course he got a visit from, he got a visit from Hanukkah. He
Hanukkah
gets,
Harry?
he gets lots of gifts, but I'm back home. So I'm with my family, and my mom still spoils me like I'm still, and Santa still spoils me, obviously. So yeah, excited for that. But
Now, can you tell us about Michael's white elephant gift exchange win from the Browns offensive line?
Yes. So the Browns offensive line does a white elephant every year. And
what gift did Michael get?
He purchased an electric scooter.
Okay.
Like one of those Bird or Uber ones. And the first round he got before it was stolen was a Traeger grill, which we have. So he texted me like, I got a Traeger. I'm like, we are not having 2 Traegers. Someone needs to steal that from you. Then he didn't even tell me this because he didn't want to get his hopes up, and he did end up losing it. He got 2 courtside Cavs tickets. Which
I think what he ended up with is much better than that.
Really? So he ended up with NBA Jam arcade game, which is currently in my car in Cleveland, and it took 2 guys to put in it. And I said, what are we doing with this when, you get home? And he's calling me. He said, well, it's staying in your car till we move back to New Jersey. I was like, are you kidding me? So I have to drive around with NBA Jam arcade game in the back of my car. And because the weather was so bad in Cleveland, it was actually pretty good to have like the weight in the back of my car over the past few days. But yeah, interesting O-line gift exchange, but it's like one of his favorite days every year. So yeah, we'll be adding that to my parents' basement because, our off-season house is not really, we don't really have that set up yet. We don't really have one. Yeah.
How much to take it off your hands?
I'll drive it right to Philly.
Deal. Done.
Does Casey want it?
That sounds fantastic. Are you kidding me? That sounds
we'll
awesome.
We'll have to have you guys over once we have it set up.
Yeah, so. I'm coming over.
Yeah.
Me and Kenny.
Yes.
All right, Zach.
Good,
how you
Zach?
doing?
Yeah, I'm great.
Oh yeah, no lag at all. You sound great.
Good.
Okay, we talked about Minshew. Anything else about the offensive game plan that stuck out to you? And what do you make of Miles Sanders in this game? 21 carries for 65 yards. And it was interesting. I actually maybe this will be the opposite of what you might expect, but I thought he was running really well in this game until the end. And I was like surprised that he wasn't getting more carries early in this game. I thought he was running hard. I thought he looked really good. And then in the second half, they sort of got away from him, and he obviously made that really, undefendable fumble.
It's kind of like the contrarian Bo that when he rushes for his career high, you say, just imagine if they had a real running back, and then he rushes for 3.1 yards per carry on 21 carries, and you're like, he's running really well. I didn't think this was a great Miles Sanders game, to be honest with you. I thought Dallas really seemed to go in trying to limit the Eagles' running game. I imagine their thinking was with Minshew at quarterback, the Eagles would focus on running the ball, and it was an emphasis of theirs. And I didn't think Miles was particularly effective in terms of picking up chunk plays. There were
that fumble pretty hard.
Yes, and he took responsibility for it. And I was speaking to Jordan Mailata after the game, and Jordan said he took it really hard. And look, it was a bad fumble and it was in a really bad time, right? If he fumbled it in the same spot in the first quarter, we're talking about it, but probably not of the same consequence as so the defense. Look, the defense did a decent job holding them to 3 after that Minshew interception, right? So Minshew throws the interception, the one where you say it's on Quez or partly on Quez.
Which one? Both of them, you could say that.
Well, no, the fourth quarter one, okay?
Yeah.
So the game's tied. Dallas gets the interception. The Eagles hold them to a field goal, all right? Then the very first play after the Eagles hold them to a field goal is a fumble. Can't happen there, right?
Brutal.
Defense goes right back on the field.
Chance to go win the game.
Yeah. So no, did not think this was a good Miles game even before the fumble. They weren't able to get enough chunk plays there. They weren't doing enough in the running game. I thought the way to move the ball today was through the passing game. I think they saw some mismatches in the secondary there, but they did commit to getting Miles the ball. 21 carries. You can't argue about that. And when you have 21 carries, you need more than 65 yards. So, not the best day for Miles, but overall with the offense, I think having Goddard back was huge. Goddard changes things.
He needed
in
more
the middle of the
targets.
field. He did. I agree. Quez, they keep targeting Quez, right? I mean, he had 5 targets tonight, 1 catch.
Yeah.
And there are times where I remember the conversation.
He was wide open for what should have been a touchdown on one misfire from Minshew. But
yes, on the first drive of the game, correct?
I think it was one where they ended up scoring a touchdown still. I think it was maybe the second offensive drive.
So what I was about to say is I remember us speaking after the Detroit game, and a sentiment that we had that night was that I think he had 16 targets that game. I think AJ Brown had 16 targets, and it was like they should throw it to him more because he catches the ball when they throw to him. Well, AJ Brown tonight had 8 targets. He caught the ball 6 times for 103 yards. Quez Watkins had 5 targets, caught the ball 1 time. There were 2 interceptions on the plays targeted to him. I don't put that.
Dallas Goedert had 3 targets and
Yeah.
caught all 3 for 67 yards.
Yeah, so it's
Get him the
the
ball.
it's the type of thing too where I get you throw it to the guy who's open, but throw the ball to AJ more. Throw the ball to Dallas Goedert more. Good things tend to happen when you throw those guys the ball.
Shocked we never saw the Dallas Goedert screen in this game.
That's a good point.
All right. I think the offense did a very good job, other than the turnovers. You can't really say other than the turnovers because that was the difference in the game. But I think our expectation, or if I can speak for you, is that if Gardner Minshew is the quarterback again next week, and you can tell me what Sirianni said about that after the game, but you would feel pretty good about their ability to move the ball next week too.
Yeah. I would say that there's little to worry about with Gardner Minshew. And if you're an Eagles fan, which I imagine anyone watching this at 12:39 back home, 11:39 here, and wherever you are around the world on Christmas Eve or Christmas, you're an Eagles fan.
Santa is actually listening.
You should leave this game encouraged by Gardner Minshew and encouraged by the offense. And perhaps that's an optimistic spin on a game when you have 4 turnovers. But I thought Gardner did some things today that are going to translate well to next week against New Orleans. And I'm presuming it is Gardner Minshew. Nick Sirianni said that if Jalen's cleared, he's going to play. That Jalen's their starting quarterback, and it's just a matter of him getting cleared. And it's not a matter of them still being in contention or still vying for the top seed as opposed to clinching it. I don't anticipate Jalen Hurts starting next week. It could happen, like Nick Sirianni says. You never rule things out with Jalen. But
there was an Adam Schefter report today that he would push to play if they lost this game, right? But
yeah, and Jeff McClain from the Inquirer reported earlier in the week, 2 weeks is the thought on this. I said when the injury occurred that I don't think we'll see Jalen until the playoffs, and I still don't think we'll see Jalen to the playoffs. I think the Eagles are going to beat the Saints next week, wrap up the 1 seed. Then maybe if the Eagles lose to the Saints and it's a dire situation, the Cowboys win next week and it's a win and in situation, the Eagles need that Week 18 game and Jalen's cleared to play, you put him out there. But I'm still operating as if we're not going to see Jalen until the postseason. Now, Jalen did travel. He was a presence on the sideline, in the locker room after the game. I mean, he was a presence in the locker room. It's interesting, Jalen Hurts in the games that he starts versus the games he doesn't start, right? He was sitting there with his teammates today in the locker room, like recap. He was chatting with Ian Book about what happened in the game. So he was very much involved in the general conversation after the game. He was a very involved, engaged teammate. That's one thing that stood out to me. And they said on the broadcast, Erin Andrews said it, and she was on the sideline, that Jalen was trying to pick his spots, and
yes,
that that was probably the case. But I had my binoculars fixed to the sideline often, and Jalen was not like standing to his side. He was in the mix. So that did jump out to me.
Did you hear anything or see anything in the locker room, Zach, about the injuries to Jordan Davis, who was evaluated for a concussion and declared out? Avonte Maddox, who left with a toe injury after sacking Dak Prescott and did not return, and Lane Johnson, who left in the fourth quarter and did not return.
Yeah. So I know Lane Johnson's the injury that most Eagles fans want. When Lane was walking out the locker room, I was actually in the Minshew press conference. Other reporters who were not at the Minshew press conference that were in there had noted that I believe it was Minshew, maybe it was the Sirianni press conference, but for one of them that he walked on his own power. He had his, I think, like hip midsection area wrapped up, whatever it may be. So we'll get more there. I saw Avonte Maddox walking boot on, I think it was his right foot, but on one of his feet. He has a toe injury. He was in a boot, was not on crutches, was in a boot. Jordan Davis was sitting there, was with his teammates. He's not allowed to talk to reporters while in the concussion protocol. That's what that injury was. It was a concussion. But he was there in the locker room. It wasn't as if he was like sequestered or anything like that. But I know the Lane Johnson injury is the big one, and we will try to get more information on that. But from what I understand, he walked out on his own. And then, yeah, I did have eyes on Avonte. He had a walking boot on his foot.
All right. The defense, Zach.
I want to get the hold on. I'm going to credit Josh Tolentino from the Inquirer here because he did spot Lane, and he tweeted this saying, let me pull this up here. He just walked out of the locker room. He's moving around on his own power. He's wearing a wrap around his waist groin area.
Lane, that is.
Lane, yes.
Okay. On defense, Zach, we were curious about what the safety picture was going to look like in this game. It looked like they started with the rotation that we sort of hinted at, that in base defense, it was still Avonte Maddox, and then the rest of the time it was Reed Blankenship. Once Avonte goes down, it's Blankenship full-time, and Josiah Scott comes in. And it really did seem like the Cowboys' game plan was to try to take advantage of the Eagles' secondary in the middle of the field. And CeeDee Lamb had 10 catches on 11 targets for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, most of those coming in the middle of the field. And I think this is where, like, you would hope, at least, that this was maybe an example of the Eagles not trying to overplay their hand in how they would like to defend CeeDee Lamb if it really came down to it. But maybe that is too generous. Because
yeah, I think you're being too generous.
We haven't really seen them have to solve this kind of problem, and it's not like they were like letting them do it on purpose.
Yes. Now this is for all of our listeners. Mark this down. Is probably the first time that Bo is more optimistic about the defense than I am. I think you are being too generous. I think as the personnel is currently constructed, and especially without Avonte Maddox, the middle of the field is problematic. Right now, CJ Gardner-Johnson is eligible to return off injured reserve this week, but as formidable as Reed Blankenship was in replacement, he does have certain limitations, and they're not the same in the middle of the field without CJ back there, and especially without Avonte Maddox back there. And I think that what you saw in those weeks when Josiah was in there and when Blankenship was in there, you weren't playing the same level of offense and you weren't playing the same level of quarterback. Perhaps the only difference being the Packers game, right? Aaron Rodgers is a high-level quarterback, but even there, Christian Watson had a big game there.
Reed Blankenship sunned him.
Yeah. So I look at it as if you're an opposing offensive coordinator, this is where you're trying to exploit the Eagles. Darius Slay and James Bradbury are perhaps the best cornerback combination in the NFL.
Although both guys had some down moments in this game.
I thought more in zone than in man.
Okay.
And that bears your stat out, right? That Prescott was perfect in zone. And maybe, like you said, Jonathan Gannon's playing the long game here. I did say on the pod the other day that despite what the Eagles are saying publicly, I do think they're preparing for what they might see, the reality that they might see the Cowboys in the first postseason game. And I thought you made a good
The
point.
probability.
Yeah. I thought you made a good point that offensively, you don't really have to worry about that because if you have Minshew, you're running a different offense with Minshew than you are with Jalen. Defensively, maybe there are certain looks or certain ways you would cover CeeDee Lamb or pressure Prescott that is different. So yeah, perhaps you do deserve credit, or I should say you're right on in saying that they were being purposely conservative. But I think this is where the Eagles are vulnerable in the middle of the field with those safeties, in particular without CJ Gardner-Johnson.
So what's your level of concern?
Very little. Now, I amend that in saying I have very little concern that they are the one seed, that they're the one seed. I think they're going to win next week. I don't think this game changes anything I think about the season. But I've been saying it's not like a cakewalk to the Super Bowl, right? I think the Cowboys are a really good team that they're going to challenge you. They can challenge you in different ways. You saw Dak Prescott passing the ball. The Eagles won tonight. I'm sorry, the Cowboys won tonight without a big Tony Pollard game. We've seen these big Tony Pollard games that he's had in the past. So yeah, it won't be just an easy walk to the Super Bowl. And we haven't even gotten into some of the other teams that they could see, like San Francisco, who keeps on winning, right? But overall, this doesn't change much. It reinforces that the turnover margin is so significant, right? And they were fortunate last week. They escaped against the Bears despite 3 turnovers, right? Because the Bears are a bad football team. If you turn over the ball like they did, you're going to lose. It's not a coincidence that the 2 games they had 4 turnovers are their 2 losses this season. And if you want the scene from the locker room, it was like and I mean this literally every corner of the locker room, because there was one corner I talked to Jordan Mailata, one corner I talked to AJ Brown, one corner I talked to Linval Joseph, one corner I talked to Hassan Reddick.
4 corners over here.
Yeah. And actually with the way it's constructed, it's almost like there's 8 corners, right? Because there's 2 sides. And I was talking to guys on all around offense and defense.
Big flex.
And they're doing my job, not big flex.
Right.
And it was, I'm plugging my story here. If you check it out on The Athletic, I have a little scene at the top where 4 different players are saying 4 different ways that they can't play this way. Like Linval Joseph was very honest and said, the Cowboys play better. The things that the Eagles talk about doing, forcing turnovers and not turning the ball over, it's what the Cowboys mostly did tonight. The Cowboys beat them the way the Eagles want to beat teams. So all it does is reinforce that the Eagles aren't this. They haven't cracked the code for how to limit turnovers. Right? It has to be reinforced. You have to be mindful of it all the time. If there's any reason to be concerned, it's that Dak's one of the best quarterbacks they've seen so far this season, and he did have his way passing the ball. And if they brought back reminders of last season, I can understand it. The fundamental difference between this season and last season is the pass rush. They had 6 sacks tonight, right? They were pressuring Prescott. They had an interception based on I don't want to say based on the pass rush, but
what a
Josh
play
Sweat.
that was by Josh Sweat. Unbelievable play.
Yeah, I spoke to Sweat about it. He said he was gassed. Like he was, but he said he knew Dak had no chance.
He was really like galloping.
Yeah, he said he knew Dak had no chance to tackle him, but he said he was exhausted. He said like he saw that ball come and he's like, oh man, like I'm catching this. It was right. But it was good reaction.
It was such a clean pick.
Yeah. And look, he read the play action. He moved there, but he got into the backfield. He was free. He got off his blocker. Hassan Reddick, 2 sacks tonight. Like I brought up, here's a little scene. I brought up to Hassan that he now set a career high, 13 sacks. He said, well, fact check that, 14. I meant like the 13th sack broke the career high, but he had 2 sacks. So he's up to 14 sacks on the season, setting a new career high. They can get after you, and they couldn't last year. So what would encourage me, if you think about that postseason game against Tampa Bay last year when Brady had his way, the Eagles weren't getting pressure, right? And I know they were playing without Graham, they were playing without Sweat that day, but this defensive line, even on a game when
but Ryan Kerrigan was running like a man with his hair on fire.
Yeah. So the Eagles can get after you there. And I'd be encouraged by that, but they need to do a better job getting off the field.
I think I am a little bit concerned about the defense.
Okay.
Even if, there's the possibility that they were playing a little bit vanilla, but yeah, I mean, we just haven't seen them have to play a really good quarterback. And, we're talking about the stakes of, like, can this team go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl? The NFC is not loaded with those great quarterbacks, and maybe it's like a little bit folly to be like worrying about a Super Bowl matchup. But yeah, I think that like Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen would have their way with the way that the Eagles play so passively on defense sometimes. And so maybe it was also interesting. Like there were some like that first conversion that the Cowboys had on third down. Like Gannon dials up a really nice blitz on 3rd and 5.
Yeah, the
Maddox gets home, he's free, and it's like that's just bad luck, right? Like
sure,
Dak sort of weasels his way out of it and completes it. But from that point on, it seemed like they did send a few blitzes, but it seemed like obviously the stats of the zone bear it out. 24 for 24, that's insane. Like I think that they can be a little bit just too easy to dice up sometimes. And in the playoffs, when the margins are thinner, I think it could be an issue.
Where I would counter with you, and you are correct, it could be an issue. I think this is also personnel related. And I don't know if CJ Gardner-Johnson is going to be healthy and when. And I don't know what Devonta Maddox's injury status is. But I think this is a significantly better secondary when you have a healthy Maddox and you have healthy Gardner-Johnson. And CJ in particular. And it's not just his ball hawking ability, but I think from a coverage perspective, right, there have been times this year when he's out of position, but he can cover better than Blankenship can. And I think that will be an upgrade for the Eagles.
That's fair. All right, Zach, let's get to break, come back, talk Swooper, and wrap this bad boy up.
It's time to knock that new business idea out of the park with Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Forget the off-season work. Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether you're selling warm-ups or wall hangers, it's time to start selling with Shopify and join the platform simplifying commerce for millions of businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you'll customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build the relationships that create die-hard fans. Shopify fields all the sales channels to grow a winning business, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And thanks to 24/7 support and free on-demand business courses, Shopify is on your team every step of the way. It's how every minute new sellers around the world score their first sale with Shopify, and you can too. Shopify is the secret to becoming a business champion by making it simple for anyone to sell their products anywhere, taking the guesswork out of selling. When you're ready to take your winning idea to the world, team up with Shopify, the commerce platform powering millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. Try out Shopify for free today and start selling anywhere. This is Possibility powered by Shopify. Sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/birds, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/birds to start selling online today. Shopify.com/birds. Finding the right wine for holiday dinners, family gatherings, and gifts can be stressful and expensive. That's why First Leaf does the hard work for you. Here's how First Leaf helps make holiday wine buying easy and affordable. To start, First Leaf asks you specific questions about your personal wine preferences. Then you'll use answers to learn what kinds of wine you like and what you don't. Next, for less than what you'd pay at the store, First Leaf's experts will custom curate award-winning wines you'll love and deliver them right to your door. They offer flexible delivery options, fast shipping, and make it super easy to change or cancel. First Leaf samples over 10,000 wines a year from around the world and selects only the finest bottles, meaning a First Leaf wine subscription can help you impress everyone on your guest and gift list. What I like about First Leaf Monthly Wine Club membership is that it's made shopping for high quality wine affordable, fun, and easy. And for someone like me who does not know wine well, it really gets me the wines that I like and need at a good price. Sign up today and you'll get your first 6 bottles for $39.95 plus free shipping. Go to tryfirstleaf.com/BWF. That's tryfirstleaf.com/BWF to get your first 6 bottles for $39.95 plus free shipping. Try firstleaf.com/BWF.
All right, Bo, Zach, and Marissa back on Birds with Friends, and we had a little bit of a Swooper controversy.
This is crazy.
Coming out of the last event from Friday or Wednesday's show. I forgot to give my third proposal. How did we all skip over this?
He forgot, Zach.
Yeah.
That's not why I wouldn't do that intentionally. I had the most turkeys left. I was the one who most stood to benefit by there being an extra thing out there.
You never know.
Now, if
I gotta go back and watch the tape because I haven't had time to do that yet, and I'm not sure how it happened. But
yeah, I mean, obviously I should have done it, but if you are a well-adjusted person, well-adjusted enough to not be following the controversy on Twitter, my proposal was going to be Dak Prescott has more turnovers than Gardner Minshew. And Deniz said, if that happens, both of you get a point, which I thought was harsh. And I was not going to accept if it happened. Luckily, it didn't happen.
The fact that it didn't happen, you accept it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a ridiculous penalty, but okay. We'll say that I accepted it. Nevertheless, lots of balls in the air here. And I remember I was up 8-4-2. Zach with 4, Marissa with 2. Only 1 point up for grabs this week. Zach, an Eagle reaches double-digit sacks for the season. In this game, Josh Sweat gets a sack, goes to 10.5, 1 nail for you. The Eagles play a season-low percentage of 11 personnel. The current low was 57% against Dallas in Week 6. Early on, it looked like they were leaning into these heavy tight end sets, but as the game went on, they basically abandoned them, and they actually ended up playing their third highest percentage of 11 personnel of the season in this game, 81%. I think a little bit of that is weighted by being on the field in some two-minute drill situations, but did not happen. Gardner Minshew has a passer rating of at least 100. Did not happen, 84.9. So Zach finishes with 1 nail. Marissa, Devonta Smith reaches 1,000 yards receiving for the season. He needed 99 yards to get it done, and he was a beast in this game. 8 for 113. Marissa on the board. An Eagles Pro Bowler scores a touchdown, not a Pro Bowl alternate, unfortunately. So 2 touchdowns for Devonta Smith, 1 for Josh Sweat. Neither count.
At first, when Josh Sweat had that, I thought he was, and I was like, yeah, I get it so early. And then I checked the list, and I was like, oh, he was an alternate.
Brutal.
Brandon
Graham reaches double-digit sacks for the season. Didn't happen in this game, but that means you continue to own this as the season goes on.
He had a half a sack, right?
He had a half a sack. So he's at 9 now. So he needs just 1 more. And the Eagles will then become the first team in NFL history with 4 players with at least 10 sacks. You had the one that never had a chance. The third Miles Sanders carry happens on the second play of the game. Sorry.
No.
And the Eagles win the game with the Turkeys pardoned if they covered the 4.5-point spread. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So you tie Zach with 1. I had Jalen Hurts and Ian Book play the same number of snaps in the game. That did hit. 1 for me. Dallas Goedert ties or exceeds his career high for touchdowns in a game, which was 2, or receiving yards in a game, which is 135. Did not happen. And the Eagles have more passes than runs. They had 29 runs in this game. Gardner Minshew threw the ball 40 times. That's 2 for me. And your boy is up to 9 on the season with the most turkeys in hand. It's tough.
Congratulations.
Great for you guys.
Merry Christmas.
It's like worse than getting coal in your stocking, I think. I was very upset about
Santa
this.
knows who's been naughty and who's been nice.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
rewarded.
we had one fewer turkey to play, or one
Right.
fewer submission.
Right.
So,
What if Zach got to bid on that? Zach could have
But
bid
I
on
would
that.
have won that bid anyway. The only thing is I would have fewer turkeys left.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know. There's an asterisk on this week. So when it comes down
Listen.
to it all,
Yeah.
Daniels gave his ruling, and it didn't end up mattering.
no, I think he said Zach and I should get a point, which would
If
make this a,
if my thing had happened,
I
if
think
the-
in general.
no, that is not what he meant. He meant if Dak Prescott had more turnovers than Gardner Minshew.
On the list of things that are going to keep me up tonight, the Swooper will not be on that list.
Okay, give us the top 3 things that are going to keep Zach up tonight.
Well, I'm going to try to watch this game some to catch it, so I have a little
Like a
less
6
work
o'clock
to do
flight,
tomorrow.
Zach.
I know, but I want to try to free myself up tomorrow, and I'm still a little wired after.
Why
the
can't
game.
you watch it on the plane?
Well, it work with Wi-Fi on the plane? If it will, that'd be great. I could do that.
Can you?
Maybe I can't download it. No, we
Oh.
don't. If I was a member of the team,
Yeah.
I could get it downloaded. Yeah, we don't get it downloaded. We need Wi-Fi. No, and then I'll be going through I have to read what the other guys wrote. But in any event, just Swooper will not keep me up tonight.
There's only 2. You need one more.
We don't need to get into that. So I would say some other takeaways from the locker room is I mentioned earlier in speaking to Hassan Reddick, he was adamant that like it was good this happened now.
Zach, EJ Smith chiming in on the chat.
Oh,
To turn EJ Smith the turncoat, but
Thank
who
you,
has
EJ.
already let his true allegiances be known that this is the show that he,
I don't have 4K. Do I need 4K or can you
He
do it
says
with regular
YouTube
YouTube?
4K lets you download.
Yeah, is it just regular YouTube TV? Because I have the regular one. I don't have 4K.
Meaning he specifies 4K.
It's
So
specified. But then the truth says YouTube TV. All right. Anyways, something to think about. I will find out. Hassan Reddick said he said this is good this happened now because these are things that will get you in the playoffs, right? And it was interesting the way he framed it. I'm going to pull up the quote here because he said they're a really good team that hasn't really been.
what would
in
Hassan
these-
Reddick know about what happens, what matters in the playoffs?
because he hasn't been in the playoffs. But I thought this was interesting. He said, we've been winning so much, you kind of get complacent. I'd rather it happen now than the postseason. That was interesting. AJ Brown was very much like he said, this was not a loss, this was a lesson. He said,
You just said that about
I like that, Zach.
yeah.
That,
He said,
store that one away.
He said, so much to learn. No need to be down. It's not a loss. It's a learning experience. That's what he said. So yeah, that was very much, part of the takeaway. Jordan Mailata, I thought this was interesting perspective where he was about how they are after turnovers, which they haven't really had many of them this year until recent weeks. But he said, when adversity strikes, it's not like bleep you. Guys are positive. We reinforce it. That's why I know this team is different. That's why I know we'll be all right. We'll be all right for next week. It's going to be a long plane ride home, but with the locker room we have, I have no worries.
No worries, mate.
Yeah, so it was very much like these guys were taking it on their back, but there wasn't a lot of concern in that locker room. Fletcher Cox, I think I mentioned this earlier, said the locker room was pissed off, which I imagine you would be when you lose to Dallas and on Christmas Eve. But again, I don't think what's that? Were you about to say it's better to be pissed off than pissed on? Because is that what you're about to say?
You know me very well. I'm glad that I got you to say it.
Okay, yes. But overall, yeah, just to give you a sense of the locker room, I've been in locker rooms in the past where it's like shell shocked or it's concerned.
or it's apathetic. And tonight it was very much like, yeah, we know what went wrong. We can fix this. We'll be fine.
And I think that's probably right. But we'll find out. Marissa, what's your take on this EJ situation?
I mean, we know what pod he joined first. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I think that matters, right?
So you want to know what
EJ was a great guest. So I'm very happy that he picked Birds with Friends to join first. So
that pod's something that
thanks
kept
to
me
him.
up at night. Yeah. We had that was not I take that on me. We got to do a better job with the audio there. That's on me.
Zach,
we
it's
should-
it's not it's on all
kind
of
of a
us.
crazy take out of you, but
Yeah. If that keeps you up at night, no.
But yeah, no, EJ was a good guest. I enjoyed hearing his perspective.
We will have him on again, and we will have like the clearest audio. It will be picture perfect.
yeah, but I feel like he has to declare his allegiance again now that it's somewhat in question. I guess it's not in question. He came to us first. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
All right. Zach, any final thoughts about the game and or what we should expect over the next few days? Do you think we're going to get another week of obfuscation as regard to the identity of this week's starting quarterback?
Yes, I think next week will be the same as this week, just with more days, right? I think at the early in the week, it'll be Jalen wants to play. I'm not going to rule Jalen out. We'll see. And then I imagine as they get closer to the week, it'll be, yeah, he just didn't make it to this week. That's what I anticipate is going to happen. I could be wrong there. Big picture takeaways here. They need to win next week. Okay. And I'm not saying that like it's a must-win game, but you don't want this going down to week 7 to week 18. I keep saying week 17 to week 18. Say Dallas wins next week and you go into week 18 against a really motivated Giants team, right? Or maybe the Giants won't have anything to play for. Yeah. You don't want that. And by the way, the Saints have some momentum here. You don't want the Saints to win for their draft pick, right? You want to keep that pick.
That pick right now is all the way
10.
up down to number 10. So,
exactly. You want to keep that in the top 10. A loss can probably a Saints loss will probably help you there. So if you were afraid of the Eagles collecting rust, sitting out, 3 weeks going into the playoffs or whatever it may be, you don't have to worry about that. I was talking to players tonight who said they wanted to leave here with a t-shirt and a hat. That didn't happen, but they said now they'll have a chance to do it at home, which they'll be able to do. So it's a big week. It's a big game. There's a lot of injury status. Stat-I is plural status, stat-I.
I think statuses.
You can say, really? I thought anything with U.S. was, okay, I could be wrong.
Platypi?
Injury status of, or maybe just status can be plural. The injury status of multiple players, right? You mentioned Jordan Davis with the concussion. Lane Johnson, it happened too late for us to know what the injury is, but that will be one to monitor. Avonte Maddox with a toe injury. And then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson eligible to return off IR this week. So all of this is going to be worth monitoring. It's going to be a busy week. We will hear from Nick Sirianni, not tomorrow. Let's let Nick enjoy Christmas. Enjoy Christmas with his family, as well as the reporters, and then we'll hear.
He's coming over.
We'll hear from. I wish. I could probably ask. I can ask better questions than Nick there than tonight. Then we will speak to Nick on Monday. Coordinators are Tuesday. Back in the locker room on Wednesday, and nothing more I enjoy than a Sunday 1:00 game. So looking forward to that.
The plural of status can be either status or statuses.
Interesting.
But
Not stat-I.
Never stat-I.
Never stat-I.
Sorry.
Problem.
Worth a shot.
On the show, it could be. There's no rules about that, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. All right, Marissa, what are you hoping Santa brings you when you wake up in the morning?
My favorite thing on Christmas morning is my mom's breakfast. It's like she makes gluten-free pancakes with chocolate chips, bananas, whipped cream on top. So it's 1 a.m. and I'm very excited for breakfast.
Nice.
That's I feel like when you're getting old, right? But what about you guys?
No, I
well,
think that's exactly
Bo,
what you
what are
want.
you?
Wait,
most
so you want a
excited
funny
about?
breakfast story real quick? Oh, I'm sorry. You go first.
No, Zach, go ahead. Let's hear it.
Okay. So this morning, I wanted to get out of the hotel. I don't have a car. And I found like a place that's a mile. It was 1.2 miles away. That looked like it had a good menu. I could take a walk, get some fresh air. It's like 22 degrees outside, but this is fine. I'm from the Northeast. I went to college in Syracuse. It's not that windy. I can deal with 22 degrees. Okay. So I'm the only person outside walking. Like 22 degrees in Dallas, they treat it like a state of emergency. Okay. So I'm walking here. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm enjoying it. It's about a 20-minute walk or so. And I get there. The place is closed. Oh man. And so now you got to walk 20 minutes back.
You walked back? You didn't Uber back?
No, I didn't Uber back.
Wow.
But
Were
like
they
a frustrating
closed
feeling.
because of the weather or
Because of
did you
Christmas?
just
No,
not-
because of Christmas Eve.
Oh.
I googled it before. I checked the hours; they were open
Okay.
based on. But then I guess because of Christmas Eve. But that's such a deflating feeling there.
Yeah.
And
Brutal.
Especially when you know on the menu what you're already getting.
So then, what did you
Yes.
get? What did you do for breakfast?
I just walked back and stopped at a hotel, and like a hotel, like just a coffee shop at a hotel. Just like a granola bowl, a granola bowl, and that was it. So yeah, that was mildly frustrating this morning. But I had a chance to listen to a good podcast. So
Which was?
I listened to the Athletics' Marcus Thompson with Ethan Strauss. He was talking beat writing, and that's what I listened to. Why are you laughing? I didn't know that would be so funny, Bill.
Yeah, I think you know why it's funny. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Birds with Friends.
No, you didn't answer Marissa's question to you.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see the kids see the setup. That's what I'm excited for. That's why I didn't go to the game.
What did Santa get them that you think they're going to be like the most excited about?
Jane has this little mini trampoline, which is going to be good for everybody because Lord knows she needs to get her energy out somehow. So
it's a gift to you as well.
Yeah, that's a gift for everybody. Casey's he's got some good stuff. He asked Santa for some sticker books. These like animal sticker books that he likes. He'll be excited about that. Got some line guard stuff. It's gonna be a fun time. Got his new room set up. That's the big thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have a great day, and Zach, I hope you have a great day seeing your kids tomorrow. Finally, too.
I can't wait. Excited to see them. Miss them.
Yeah, and everybody and all the listeners have a great day
Yes.
with family.
That's right. So, for Zach and Marissa and Ethan, I'm Bo. We thank you for listening. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the family time. We'll talk to you later this week. And as always, and for Santa too, we love you.